seek you out, flay you alive.
Hey guys, Pogo here, and welcome to the next episode of BanManagement. In this episode, we're going to get our server set up. We need a server that can it can serve web content to people who go to the website. It needs to have a PHP interpreter, and it also needs to have a MySQL database. If you are using a Minecraft server hoster, there's a chance that you might have some or all of these things, but you might also want to consider hosting it yourself. I use a service called DigitalOcean that I love. You can set up a Linux server nice and quick with no hassle in under a minute, and you can manage it online. You can actually get, if you're a student, you can get $100 in free credit. You can check out my video on the GitHub student developer pack, and that's where you'll get it. So I'd recommend it, but if you're going to host this, you're going to need what's called a LAMP stack. That means Linux, Apache, MySQL, and PHP. So you're first going to, probably be running this on a Linux system. We're going to use a distribution of Ubuntu to do this. You're going to need Apache or something that serves web content. Apache is a very popular web server, and that's what we'll use. It's just that so when I go to my website, it will display the page correctly and everything. We need a MySQL database in order to store all of the bands and all of that information, and we need a PHP interpreter because some of our website is going to be written in PHP, and we need to be able to read the PHP. We need to, have the PHP work, so you need a PHP interpreter like you need a Java runtime environment to run Java stuff. So if you already have all of this stuff from other places, you can skip ahead to the very end where we set up the database, but if you don't and you want to host it on DigitalOcean or another service similar, I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to use DigitalOcean for this. So we'll go ahead and log in. I'm already logged in, and we're going to create a droplet. That's just DigitalOcean's name for a server. So we're going to create a droplet, and I'll name it BanManagement. You can call it whatever you want. And for the size, I'm just going to go with the one that costs $5 a month. You can see that they offer different specs. 512 megabytes. This is 1 gigabyte, 30 gigabyte, 20 gigabytes of SSD, 30, and then 1 terabyte of transfer, 2 terabytes of transfer. You only need the small $5 a month one, and that's what I would recommend. Go ahead and pick the region that's closest to you. I'm going to pick New York, and I'll just do number 3. We can go ahead and ignore all this other stuff. I suppose you could turn on backups if you wanted to. Now, under distributions, this is where we're going to pick our distributions. So we're going to be using Ubuntu, and we'll use 14.04, the 64-bit version, because that's the latest version with long-time support. But if we want to install a LAMP stack, and if you're using DigitalOcean, you can actually go over to Applications, and you can say LAMP on 14.04, and that will install Linux, Ubuntu, Apache, MySQL, and PHP on Ubuntu 14.04, and it'll do that all for you. Otherwise, you would just use apt-get to install Apache, MySQL, and PHP, and maybe do a little bit of extra setup. So I'm going to pick LAMP on 14.04. I'm not going to add any SSH keys, so when I hit create droplet, I'm going to receive an email with my root password. Alright. So, I'm going to open up my email account on my phone, and I'm going to grab, okay, I have my root password right here. So we're just going to give this a couple of seconds to finish creating, and then we'll have our server up and running. From there, the PHP and Apache are all set up for us. We just need to do a very little bit with the MySQL, and then we're going to add the database and table that we need in order to keep track of our bands. So we're just going to wait for a second, and it looks like we're almost finished. There we go. The server is now created, and we have a server running Ubuntu 14.04 hosted somewhere in New York right now. So we'll go ahead and get console access because we want to work with the console to get everything set up. If you see this message, just hit enter. And now we're going to get to our login. The username is going to be root, and the password is going to be whatever you got in the email. So I'm just going to type in the one that I got. Okay. So now it'll just say that you're required to change your password immediately. So I'm going to do that right now. Put in my old password. Okay, now I'm going to put in a new password. Okay. So now we're in, and you'll see that it says, thank you for using DigitalOcean's LAMP application. Your web root is located at the file source var www.html, and we'll look at that when we work on our website, and it can be seen from the IP address of the server, which I'll show you. The details of your PHP installation can be seen at your IP address /info.php. Your MySQL root user's password is that, and it says you are encouraged to run MySQL secure installation to ready your server for production. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. We're going to finish up the MySQL installation. So MySQL secure installation. So the first thing that it says is, do you want to change your root password? So first you need to enter your current one. This is not the one that you typed in to log in. This is the one that you see right here where it says your root password is DWWTR71WB0. Nope, that was an O. Let's try that again. DWWTR71WB0. Let's see if I did it right. Typed it in wrong. DWWTR71WBO. There we go. So now do you want to change the root password? It just generated one for you, so I'm going to go ahead and say yes. You answer that with a capital Y, and I'm going to enter my new password. And okay, that's done. The next thing is, do you want to remove anonymous users? And we're going to say yes. We don't want anyone to be able to access it. We only want our web API to be able to access it. So we're going to remove the anonymous users. We don't want people to log in without an account. Do we want to disallow root remote login? Yes. We don't want the root to be able to log in from anywhere. We just want it to happen on this server, and that's all we're really going to need. There is a test database that's created, so I'm just going to go ahead and say yes. We don't need it. And you can ignore where it says failed, not critical, keep moving. It just didn't create the test database, but everything else is fine. And then we're just going to reload the privilege tables to make sure that everything is applied. And you'll see, thank you for using MySQL. So everything is now set up, and I'll show you that right now, and then we're just going to finish up MySQL. So right here, if we go ahead and take the IP address of our of the server and we type it in, you'll see it says Apache 2 Ubuntu default page. This is the default page that was generated when Apache 2 was installed, and it's just telling us that it works and the web server is being hosted, and it gives us some information about it. But we are going to replace this with our own website once we write it. If I go to, as I said before, the info.php, it will print out all of this information about our PHP installation. And there is a ton of information, but you can clearly see that PHP is working correctly because all of this information is showing up. So PHP and Apache are now set up, and MySQL is as well. Let's just get our database and table ready. So we're going to do MySQL-uroot-p. We're saying MySQL, the user is root, and we're going to enter our password, -p, and the password is going to be either what you saw above or if you just changed it, whatever you just changed it to. And now you'll see that we are in. So we're going to go ahead and let's just do show databases, and we need a semicolon at the end. And you'll see that these are the three databases: information schema, MySQL, and performance schema. We're going to create our own database to store everything. Now, if you don't know what MySQL is, I'll just walk you through all of these different steps. It's a database program, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a database. The syntax in MySQL is a little bit strange, so just follow along, and I'll try to explain it. First thing is we're going to create database, and we're going to call this BanManagement. You needed the semicolon at the end like you do in most programming languages. So if we go ahead now and show databases, you'll see that BanManagement was just created. So we're going to use BanManagement. So we just changed our database. Now within a database you have different tables, and a good way to think about it is like a spreadsheet. The tables have different columns, and each column has a name and a type, and then there are tons of values inside of it for each row. So each row of data is one entry, and it has a bunch of different things. In this case, for our band management, we're going to create a band table, and that is going to have 4 pieces. It's going to have an ID, which is a unique ID for each band, just so we can keep track. It's always good to have a key. Each band is going to have its own ID just in case we need it. We're going to store the UUID of the person who was banned. We're going to store the date and time that they were banned, and we're going to store the reason that they were banned. So those are 4 different columns, and every time someone's banned, a new row will be added, and each of those 4 columns will have values put into them. So now we'll go ahead and do that. We're going to say create table, and we'll call the table bans. Now we're going to put parentheses, and inside of the parentheses is where we're going to put all of the different things that we need. The first thing is we're going to do the ID. Now in MySQL you write the name before the value, so it's going to be ID int. Sorry, the name before the type. So we're creating ID, its type is going to be int, and there are a couple of things we want to say. We want to say not null, primary key, auto underscore increment. And what this means is this ID is going to be the primary key for the table, and auto increment means that it's not going to, or it's going to automatically add 1 for each entry. So the first time you put the entry in, it's going to be 0 or 1. I think 1. But then the second time it's going to be 2, and the third time it's going to be 3. So you don't have to worry about figuring out the ID. The ID will be automatically done. So that's the primary key. That's it's unique to each table. Sorry, it's unique to each entry. So that's like the key that you can put in. There could be more than one band for UUID, but no 2 bands will have the same ID. And then we're going to auto increment it so that it will keep adding 1 every time. Not null just means that it's never going to have no value because it auto increments. The next thing that we need is the UUID. So we're going to call it UUID, and the type is going to be varchar, which is just string of characters, and in parentheses we're going to write 40. So it's a string of characters. It's like a string that has 40 characters, and that's the length of a UUID. It's exactly 40 characters. So we're creating this string essentially of length 40. Let's see, we need the date. The type is going to be date time. That will store both the date and the time for us. And then finally we need reason. And now reason, I'm just going to write text, and that's just like a longer, varchar 40 is exactly 40, a text would be longer, so we don't know how long the reason is going to be, so we'll just use text, and we should hit enter, and you'll see it says query OK, which means that we did not have any errors with our syntax. If I now do show tables, you'll see that we have one table called bands. And if I do describe bands, you'll see that it has ID, which is type int. It's not null, it's the primary key. And then its extra is auto increment. We have UUID, which is varchar 40, and it could be null, it won't, but and then we have the date, which is a date time, and we have reason, which is a text. So we now have the 3 parts or 4 parts of our LAMP stack set up. We have our Linux, which is Ubuntu. We have our Apache, which is our web server, and we made sure that it was working. We have MySQL, which we just set up, and we added our database, and we added our table, so we're all good there. And then we have PHP working because we looked at the info page right here, and we can see that it's obviously running just fine. So that's all for this episode. As always, subscribe if you want to see more, comment with what you want to learn. If you like this video, click the like button, and I'll see you guys soon with some more coding. Bye for now.